Отдайте вас сотни.
Hello, this is Game Master Karakin, and welcome to the 300 subscriber special, the Chronosphere in Time Travel in CNC episode. The year is 1946. World War II is over. Reports are sporadic and unclear, but estimates would come to show that some 3% of the world's population had died in or because of the war, totaling at some 70 to 85 million people. It was the worst and most devastating event in world history since the First World War, and that since the Mongol invasions of 1206 to 1405. Civilian deaths totaled 50 to 55 million. Military deaths from all causes totaled 21 to 25 million, including many deaths in captivity of about 5 million prisoners of war. More than half of the total number of casualties are accounted for by the dead of the Republic of China and the Soviet Union. Perhaps most importantly to Albert Einstein, over 6 million of his kinsmen were murdered by the National Socialist war machine. Einstein, an unbelievably gifted man of science, worked for many years to develop his theories, as well as to work on projects like atomic energy, and it is within this project and from his collaboration with Nikola Tesla, another inventor that would find work among the Soviets in the wars of the Red Alert timeline, he discovered a way to travel back in time and prevent this tragedy from occurring. Building his device, a machine called the Chronosphere, he traveled back in time to 1924 in Landsberg, Germany. There he meets a notorious Austrian painter, the man responsible for Germany's part in the war, as he is leaving the Landsberg prison. Recognizing the future dictator of the Third Reich immediately, the doctor puts on a brave face and greets him. The mustache man returns the greeting, and thinking the Einstein is there to greet him in his capacity as a National Socialist Party leader, he shakes his hand. Instantly, an eerie light envelops the painter, and he disappears from history. When he returns from the future, Einstein congratulates himself on preventing the Second World War, but his elation is short-lived, as without Germany to act as a rival, the Soviet Union under Stalin had grown massively powerful and taken parts of both Eastern Europe and China. Stalin was led to start the war by a mysterious advisor who would become a major player in the future. In any case, the Soviets launched a new attack on the West, and with the Soviets' ultimate goal being one supercontinental Soviet empire. The even more devastating war began. A war with powerful and invigorated enemies on both sides, with better technology sourced from their respective polymaths, and a nearly unlimited number of nuclear weapons on both sides. Tens of millions of fighting men on both sides threw themselves into combat, and died in the grinder of a battlefield on another. Famines gripped population centers, and radioactive debris from dozens and dozens of tactical and missile-based nuclear weapons vaporized and poisoned hundreds of millions of civilians, men, women, and children for decades to come. Statistics from this relatively short conflict vary, but estimates vary between 150 to 280 million dead, not counting the number killed in the communist purges, accounting to between 6 to 10% of the world's population. At the very least, 100 million more people died in the conflict than in the first iteration, and those are by very loose estimates. Seeing the potential at the beginning of the war for extreme violence, Einstein made his miracle machines available to the Allied nations and wrought terrible fury on the destroyers of the world he created. For the most part, in this version of the Second World War, the Chronosphere, Einstein's greatest creation, was used to ferry troops across space to other locations on the planet, delivering commandos and small armies to remote and heavily defended locations to aid ongoing battles, and ultimately give the Allies the upper hand. This was because, after learning of its capabilities, the Allied command took possession of the sphere and prevented its second major use. Eventually, Moscow was taken and Stalin killed, and parts of Russia's empire dismantled. The USSR was allowed to continue its existence, albeit under the heel of a pro-Western Romanov premier. In the prelude to the Third World War, in secret and put into motion likely by the shadowy former aide to Stalin, Premier and Yuri gather a massive army and surprise their erstwhile allies in the United States. Yuri puts his tremendous powers of persuasion to work and destroyed the Allied faction's nuclear weapons systems, and through this drew Albert Einstein back into the war. With his new inventions, the Allies managed to beat back the Russian bear and almost totally decapitate their enemy. However, Yuri, thinking several steps ahead, amassed his own army and, using psychic dominators, took control over nearly all of the remaining population of the Earth that had once again been decimated by wars, including indiscriminate use of hydrogen bombs and self-aware murder robots capable of tearing the tops off of tanks. In a last-ditch effort, a small team took control of the original model Chronosphere and teleported through time into the past where the Russians were invading the coast of America. Utilizing their military might, the Allies destroyed the psychic dominators, and doing this caused Yuri to come out of his hiding early and attack the combined factions. Teaming up, the two superpowers destroy Yuri, and ending with the madman being locked away in a psychically deadened box for the rest of his natural life. The events previous to Red Alert 3's divergence are composed of the final moments from the war of Red Alert 2, likely rekindled by the incompetence of the Premier Romanov. We enter back into the scene with Allied troops flooding into Moscow, the headquarters of the USSR, under direct shelling. A small group of highly ranking officials gather with a Soviet scientist who has completed a competing device for time travel with Tesla technology and move through time to meet scientist Einstein far in the past and erase him from existence. Without Einstein, and presumably Oppenheimer, no one ever developed the atomic bomb, and so, in a world without the Third Reich and a strong USSR, the Soviet industrial might keeps them powerful, makes the Allied war machine quake in its boots. The game begins with the Union advancing through Europe in the 70s at an incredible pace, the Allies unable to fight them off, disunited. However, the new premier does not have everything his own way. The Empire of the Rising Sun, never cowed with either supreme force of arms or nuclear weapons, quietly took their empire in China, Polynesia, and many Micronesian fully artificial islands, developing into an enemy far in excess of development and sophistication of either of the other superpowers. Armed with science fiction-esque technology and powerful specializations in naval warfare, the Empire attacks the Soviet Union and the Allies in an apocalyptic bid to take over the world and make all people subject to state Shintoism and the rule of the God Emperor. In this war, although nuclear weapons are not used, and more conventional warfare is waged, it is undeniable that far more damage is caused than in our world wars. Devastating and unstable weapons of mass destruction, akin to tactical warheads, scourge the battlefields, including cities and rural population centers. World War II doctrines of total warfare and sheer destructive scale, mixed with the sophistication of warfare in a near history and also science fiction levels, to create battle lines spanning hundreds of miles and engagements made up of tens of millions of men, tens of thousands of tanks, many thousands of planes, dirigibles, and walkers. The loss of life was appalling, likely leading to over 100 million casualties across all factions of the war. Essentially, from all this, we could take away a few things from the usage and capabilities of the Chronosphere and begin to determine what might happen in a hypothetical future where all three game universes are merged into one timeline. The usage of the Chronosphere can in fact be differentiated into two different devices, the Chronosphere and the Time Machine. While both machines work on the exact same principles, only the Time Machine can travel to different periods of time and change the timeline. It is unknown exactly how the machines work, but it is clear they work as a type of teleporter, allowing one to translate through time and space to another location. Different speculative methods could be based on quantum field theories, like those described in Michael Crichton's timeline, black hole event horizon translation, or more easily understood teleportation from cosmically fixed points in time and space, like Star Trek transporters on peyote. Additional questions permeate the Red Alert canon as to how the devices affect time and space in a larger sense, and how the Red Alert universe is connected to the Tiberium and Generals universes. For instance, hints are there that lead one to thinking that the Red Alert universe, before the divergence into Red Alert 2 and 3, is a prequel to the Tiberium set of games. Personally, I don't believe this, as stated in other videos, but it is worth mentioning that some connections in the meta sense of the developers are there, if not totally in execution. If they are in the same universe, the Red Alert 1 and Tib Dawn, given the link that Cain is in both games, where is Cain and the Brotherhood in Red Alert 2 and 3? Cain is conspicuously absent from those games despite orchestrating the entirety of Red Alert 1. Is Generals what the world looks like without chronotech, i.e., where Einstein never goes back in time and kills the Mustache Man, and we have the world as we recognize it? If that is true, does that mean Einstein killing the leader of the German socialists created Cain and the entire Tiberium timeline? These sorts of extra questions, considering how interesting they are so far, I will leave for another CNC theory crafting video sometime soon, but to follow this train of thought to its conclusion, these questions imply that there is something actually different happening entirely when Einstein uses his time machine than going back in time and creating a new timeline. If you pay attention to things happening in the games from one to another, you notice that many of the tiny details, the way the weapons work, the absence or presence of characters and concepts like Cain, Tiberium, aliens, mind control for the most part, and nuclear weapons technology, despite Einstein not being the actual person who invented them in our timeline, you notice that what the Chronosphere is actually doing is something closer to creating and traveling between many similar alternate universes, rather than places in time. This might be somewhat of a controversial idea, but I think it solves the Schrodinger's Cain problem that my friend Stefan from No Strings Productions on YouTube mentioned in his video on the same topic. Hot take, but the Red Alert universe games, despite what Einstein might tell you in the cutscenes, is not about time travel, really. It's about parallel universe travel, and it always was. Tell me in the comments what you think about this idea. My preferred theory, at this time at least, for how the Chronosphere works is that the time stream is actually completely inviolable, and that you cannot go back in time at all. What you do is go outside the universe and enter a near identical one with slightly, ever so slightly different rules, in roughly correct time period. This theory solves the problem of the butterfly effect going wildly out of control in the games, and shows that the games may be connected, but are likely connected by the use or disuse of technology that not even its creator fully understands. The one major flaw I can see in this is that the time streams in Red Alert 2 fold back together, but this is not in the other Red Alert games or any of the other CNC games, so I could perhaps square this circle by saying that Red Alert 2 Yuri's Revenge takes place in an alternate universe from Red Alert 2, a universe where merging is possible through other means. We don't know what actually happens after the events of Red Alert Yuri's Revenge after all. It is just implied by Red Alert 3, and we are left to speculate. Perhaps merging isn't what we all thought it was, and actually is a different phenomena entirely, misattributed to the time machine device. In any case, the Chronosphere is an extremely powerful weapon that can change the course of battles by eliminating enemies or transporting small armies to other bases. The ability to entirely sidestep enemy defensive emplacements is so potent, in fact, that I would posit that this technology is as much of a paradigm shift as cannons were to the late antiquity period. With the innately and infinitely tragic fall of Constantinople to Mehmed the Unhinged, it forever changed warfare into a form that would be unrecognizable to all previous military tacticians in history. Speculation into this paradigm shift for a potential fourth game will at some point be in a video, and in a video I will be calling something like the first unified theory of CNC. Will be in a theory crafting video soon. At any rate, I have to agree with Shurdenko. With the invention of the Chronosphere, the Allies really are invincible. Nothing but a complete and total nuclear razing of the device, and all people capable of constructing them, could ever stop the Allies from clawing their way back to victory once they have access to the device and its maker, besides Tesla, the singular figure in all of history, making America and its allies a force to be reckoned with on a truly galactic scale. Now, this video has been about 16 minutes long, so I am going to cut out the part where I talk about how the different universes could be merged, but that will be in a video coming hopefully very soon. I am not entirely sure exactly how I'm going to structure that video. I will have to talk to some of you in the comments for where I suspect each one of the bases will be for each of the major powers, and who would ally with who, and what the presence of Tiberium will be like in the world, and which era will be in which. So I will have to talk to you about that to come up with exactly how I'm going to do that. But this will be a video that I hope will come very soon, and I appreciate everyone who has watched the video. I have a link in the description for an Amazon affiliate link, and that should allow you to purchase anything you like on Amazon and give me a small cut, which would be glorious. On the other hand, I have a Patreon that I will be stocking with new footage once I get more established here. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And this has been Game Master Karakin, signing off.